When we talk about modern conflicts and the rapid changes happening in the Middle East, one of the most shocking developments in recent times has been the reported condition of Israel's Lod city after Saudi Arabia joined the war. Lod, also known historically as Lod, has always been considered a significant city due to its central position near Tel Aviv and its airport that serves as one of the busiest gateways in the region. For decades, Lod has symbolized both strategic importance and cultural diversity. But the new scenes emerging from there paint a picture that is drastically different from what many people remember. To understand this fully, we need to break down the situation step by step, analyzing what exactly has happened, how it happened, and why it matters not only for Israel but for the entire region and possibly the world. The first key element here is the involvement of Saudi Arabia. For years, Saudi Arabia was positioned as a quiet but powerful player in the region, sometimes operating indirectly through diplomacy and sometimes through influence over allies. But the decision to join the war directly has shifted the balance dramatically. In terms of performance on the battlefield, Saudi Arabia brings not just manpower, but also cutting-edge military technology. Its air force has been modernized with American-made fighter jets like the F-15 and Eurofighter, as well as precision-guided munitions that can target specific sites with devastating accuracy. This is not the same Saudi Arabia of decades ago relying only on oil wealth. This is a state that has invested billions in modern defense systems, drones, cyber warfare capabilities, and intelligence cooperation with other nations. The result is a military force that, when applied, can create serious damage in a short span of time, which is exactly what seems to have happened in Lod City. When the reports started to emerge of Lod being under heavy attack, eyewitness accounts described entire neighborhoods reduced to rubble, flames consuming homes, and infrastructure collapsing. One of the most devastating aspects of modern warfare is not just the destruction of military bases or strategic centers, but the damage to civilian life. In Lod, the key roads, bridges, and communication lines have been hit, paralyzing movement inside the city. Airports nearby faced temporary shutdowns, which immediately impacted the flow of supplies, reinforcements, and international travel. For a city that once prided itself on being a hub of connectivity, this level of isolation is crippling. Design-wise, Lod's urban landscape has always been a mix of old and new. Traditional neighborhoods sit next to modern residential blocks, while industrial areas connect directly with main highways. That very design, however, has turned into a vulnerability in wartime. The proximity of vital infrastructure to civilian areas means that any strike intended for one can spill over into the other. This is exactly what has happened, with reports indicating that schools, hospitals, and residential towers have suffered collateral damage. The performance of defense systems like Israel's Iron Dome has been heavily tested, and while it has intercepted many incoming projectiles, the sheer volume of coordinated attacks involving drones, ballistic missiles, and airstrikes overwhelmed the system in some cases. This layered attack strategy is one of the unique aspects of Saudi Arabia's involvement as they coordinated strikes with allied forces in a way that pushed Israeli defenses beyond their limits. For ordinary people trying to understand this, without diving into deep military jargon, think of it like a computer firewall. Normally, your firewall can block certain viruses or malware, but if suddenly thousands of different attacks come at once from different directions, even the best firewall will struggle. That's essentially what happened to Lod. The defense system is strong, but the attackers designed their operations to exhaust it, and once gaps appeared, missiles and bombs slipped through, causing catastrophic damage on the ground. Another feature of this conflict that stands out is the psychological dimension. Lod is not just any city. It has a mixed population of Jews, Arabs, and Christians. The fabric of its society has always been diverse, sometimes fragile, sometimes resilient. When destruction like this happens, it doesn't just break buildings, it fractures communities. People who once lived side by side in relative peace are now forced into fear, suspicion, and blame. The images of shattered homes and displaced families are not only tragic, but also symbolic of the larger fragmentation that war brings. In a way, the design of the city as a multicultural hub is under assault just as much as its physical infrastructure. From a performance perspective, Israel's military has traditionally been regarded as one of the strongest in the region. It has cutting-edge aircraft, tanks, cyber units, and of course, the much-discussed Iron Dome. Yet, Lod has revealed cracks in that armor. The speed and precision with which Saudi-led operations targeted the city highlight a level of planning that caught many off guard. It raises questions about intelligence gaps and the ability of Israel to anticipate coordinated moves from nations it did not expect to face directly in open conflict. This unpredictability is one of the selling points, if we can use that term, of Saudi Arabia's sudden entry into the war. They introduce an element of surprise. And in warfare, surprise is one of the most powerful tools. If we zoom out and look at the bigger picture, the destruction of Lod is not just about a city being bombed. It is about the message being sent. In geopolitical terms, the attack demonstrates that no part of Israel is beyond reach, not even cities near the heart of its infrastructure. It shows that alliances can shift, that enemies can become more direct, and that the battlefield can expand faster than anticipated. For those analyzing war strategy, this becomes a case study in how quickly urban centers can be destabilized when a powerful new player joins the equation. In terms of design elements of modern warfare, drones have played a massive role in this attack. Reports indicate that unmanned aerial vehicles were deployed to scout, to jam communications, and to strike with pinpoint accuracy. This is different from traditional bombardments where large, indiscriminate bombs were dropped. Drones allow for more selective targeting, which in theory is supposed to reduce civilian casualties, but in practice, when used in large numbers alongside missiles and artillery, they end up amplifying the destruction. Lod's narrow streets, its dense housing blocks, and its limited bomb shelters made it particularly vulnerable to these kinds of strikes. Residents described how the buzzing of drones overhead became a constant psychological terror, a reminder that they could be watched and targeted at any moment. For a broader audience who may not be familiar with how modern wars are fought, it's worth comparing this to everyday technology. Think of drones as advanced versions of the delivery drones that companies like Amazon are experimenting with, except instead of delivering packages, these drones deliver explosives. They can fly low, dodge radar, and find specific targets, making them an incredibly effective weapon. This is one of the unique aspects of the conflict in Lodhau. The battlefield is evolving from traditional tanks and jets to high-tech, smarter weapons. Another dimension that needs to be mentioned is the humanitarian crisis. Lod is now facing shortages of electricity, water, and medical supplies. Hospitals that were once serving routine needs like surgeries and births are now overwhelmed with casualties from the bombings. Doctors have been forced to work around the clock, sometimes without enough equipment. The destruction of supply lines means that aid is delayed, and international agencies are struggling to get clearance for safe passage. This creates a secondary layer of suffering, one that doesn't make headlines as much as the explosions, but is equally devastating to those living through it. Economically, the condition of Lod also has ripple effects. The city was home to industries and businesses that supported not only its own population, but also fed into the larger Israeli economy. With factories destroyed, offices shut down, and workers displaced. The economic cost of this destruction will be felt long after the bombing stops. Insurance companies face enormous claims, businesses lose revenue, and unemployment rises. For ordinary families, the loss of homes and livelihoods creates a cycle of poverty that can last generations. On a more symbolic level, the attack on Lod represents a blow to Israel's sense of security. This was not a border town, not a distant outpost. It was a city close to Tel Aviv. Close to the central nervous system of the country. To see it in ruins sends a message that even the heart can be pierced. For Saudi Arabia and its allies, this becomes a strategic victory in terms of propaganda, showing that they have the ability to inflict real damage deep inside enemy territory. Looking at the design of Lod before the war, it had been undergoing development projects to modernize its housing, transportation, and cultural centers. Those projects now lie in ruins, leaving residents not just grieving the present but also mourning the future they were promised. Reconstruction will take years, maybe decades, and even then, the scars will remain. The unique selling point of Lod as a city of coexistence, progress, and connectivity has been replaced by images of smoke, rubble, and despair. At the same time, it's important to note that war often brings out resilience as much as it brings destruction. The people of Lod, despite being battered, are showing signs of unity and survival. Stories are emerging of neighbors helping each other, of community leaders trying to organize relief, of families sheltering strangers in their basements. These human elements remind us that beyond the statistics and the technical details, war is about people, and their courage, in the face of overwhelming odds, is as much a part of the story as the missiles and drones. From a performance analysis perspective, what we are witnessing in Lod is a demonstration of how modern warfare pushes defense systems to their limit. Israel's reliance on high-tech solutions like Iron Dome was effective but not invincible. Saudi Arabia's ability to coordinate multiple forms of attack at once, missiles, drones, cyber disruptions, shows how future wars may be fought. It is less about raw numbers and more about synchronization, strategy, and the intelligent use of technology. This is the battlefield of the 21st century, and Lod is unfortunately one of its harshest examples. For viewers trying to make sense of why this matters globally, the destruction of Lod is not just a regional conflict. It has implications for oil markets, for international alliances, for global security. If Saudi Arabia's direct involvement escalates further, it could draw in other powers, potentially reshaping the balance in the Middle East. Lod then becomes not just a city under fire, but a symbol of a larger struggle playing out on the world stage.